The autumn leaves were just beginning to fall, painting the world in shades of gold and crimson as Tom and I drove to visit his old college buddy Mark. The air was crisp, filled with the promise of a cozy weekend away from our routine. But as we stepped into Mark's welcoming home, filled with the aroma of homemade chili and the echoes of a football game, I couldn't shake off an unsettling feeling. The evening was supposed to be a celebration of old friendships, but as the night deepened, so did the shadows of temptation. Mark's laughter, his lingering looks, they were like a warm blanket, comforting yet suffocating. And in the quiet of the kitchen, with Tom asleep in the next room, I found myself at a crossroads. Mark's touch was electric, his words a siren's call, and I was caught in a dance I never intended to join. What would you do if faced with a choice that could unravel everything you've built? I've always believed that life is a series of moments, some fleeting, others lingering like the scent of a well-cooked meal. My name is Melissa, I'm 51, and for the last 25 years, I've shared those moments with my husband, Tom. Our love has been a quiet symphony, a gentle melody that has played in the background of our lives. This weekend, we decided to escape the routine, to visit Tom's old college buddy Mark, in a small town that time seems to have forgotten. As we pulled up to Mark's house, the aroma of homemade chili wafted through the air, mingling with the crisp autumn breeze. Mark, with his infectious laugh and a warmth that could melt the coldest of hearts, welcomed us with open arms. His home was a sanctuary of comfort, the walls echoing with the sounds of a football game, the kind that stirs memories of simpler times. The evening unfolded like a well-loved book, each page turned with laughter and stories of yesteryears. Tom and Mark, lost in their college days, shared tales of adventures and misadventures, their voices rising and falling with the rhythm of their shared history. I sat there, a silent observer sipping on my wine, feeling the warmth of the room seep into my bones. The night was young and the atmosphere was light, almost buoyant. But as the clock edged towards midnight, the beer began to take its toll. The laughter grew louder, the stories more animated, and the air seemed to thicken with an unspoken tension. Tom's face was flushed, his eyes a bit too bright, and Mark's joviality took on a different shade, his laughter now carrying a hint of something. The game ended, and the house quieted down except for the occasional cheer from a replay on the screen. Tom, now visibly tired, settled into the couch, his eyes heavy with sleep. I decided to make some tea, seeking a moment of solitude in the kitchen. The kettle whistled softly as I poured hot water over the tea leaves, the steam rising in gentle curls. Mark, noticing my departure, followed me into the kitchen under the pretense of helping with the dishes. We exchanged small talk, the kind that fills the silence when two people are not quite strangers, but not quite friends. He complimented the tea, his voice a low murmur, and I thanked him, feeling the warmth of the mug in my hands. As we stood there, the kitchen felt smaller, more intimate. Mark's presence was like a warm blanket, comforting yet slightly suffocating. His eyes lingered on me a moment too long, and I felt a flutter in my chest, a mix of flattery and unease. "You know, Melissa," Mark started, his tone shifting. "It's not often we get to see someone as lovely as you here." His words were innocent enough, but the way he said them, the way his gaze held mine, it felt like he was crossing an invisible line. I laughed, a nervous sound, and took a sip of my tea, hoping the heat would mask the flush creeping up my neck. "Thank you, Mark. It's nice to be appreciated," I replied, trying to keep the conversation light. The air between us thickened, charged with an energy that felt out of place in this familiar setting. Mark moved closer, ostensibly to reach for a dish, but his arm brushed against mine, sending a as I sipped my tea. Mark moved closer, his presence suddenly more imposing. He began talking about how much he admired Tom and me, how we were the epitome of a perfect couple. His words were sincere, but there was an undercurrent of something else, something I couldn't quite place. Then, without warning, Mark wrapped his arms around my waist. I froze, the mug slipping slightly in my grasp. His lips found the side of my neck, a kiss that was both unexpected and unsettling. My heart raced, a mix of shock and confusion flooding through me. In that moment, I should have pushed him away, but I didn't. Instead, I found myself turning to face him, our eyes locking in a silent conversation of what-ifs and maybes. His gaze was intense, searching, as if he was trying to read my thoughts through my eyes. The warmth of his breath mingled with the steam from the tea, creating a fog around us, a veil of secrecy in the dimly lit kitchen. "Melissa," he whispered, his voice a low, husky murmur. "I've always wondered, what would it be like?" My mind was a whirlwind of emotions. Guilt for not immediately rejecting his advance, curiosity about the path not taken, and a forbidden thrill, the kind that comes from breaking the rules, even if just in thought. I knew I should step back, say something to diffuse the situation, but the words wouldn't come. Instead, I stood there, caught in the gravity of his proximity, the heat of his body radiating through my clothes. What would you do if faced with a choice that could change everything? Mark's hand moved to my cheek, his thumb brushing lightly against my skin. It was a touch that felt like a question, an invitation to a dance on the edge of propriety. My breath hitched, and I could feel the tension in the air, thick and palpable. I was at a crossroads, the path of loyalty to my husband on one side, and the allure of the unknown on the other. The moment stretched, time slowing down as if to give me a chance to decide, to weigh the consequences of my next. The kitchen seemed to shrink around us, the air thick with tension. Mark's hands were warm on my skin, his breath heavy with the scent of beer. I could hear Tom's soft snoring from the living room, a stark reminder of the life I was about to potentially jeopardize. I whispered, "Mark, we can't." But my voice lacked conviction. He responded by pulling me closer, his lips finding mine in a kiss that was both forbidden and exhilarating. My mind screamed to stop, but my body, influenced by the late hour and the intimacy of the moment, responded differently. His touch was like an electric current, igniting a fire that I hadn't felt in years. The room spun as his hands explored the contours of my back, pulling me into the warmth of his embrace. My heart pounded against my chest, a drumbeat of confusion and desire. Can a moment of weakness define who we are? The steam from the tea had long dissipated, leaving only the heat of our closeness. Mark's fingers traced the line of my jaw, his touch gentle yet insistent. My breath caught in my throat, a silent battle raging within me. I knew this was wrong. Every fibre of my being screamed it, yet here I was, caught in the pull of something forbidden. His lips moved to my ear, whispering promises of passion, of a night where we could forget the world outside. My hands, almost of their own accord, found their way to his shoulders, feeling the strength beneath his shirt. The kitchen, once a place of comfort, now felt like a stage for a drama I never intended to star in. Mark's voice was a low murmur. "Melissa, let's just... for tonight." His words were a siren's call, tempting me to dive into waters I knew I shouldn't swim. I should have pushed him away, should have walked back to the safety of my marriage. But instead, I found myself leaning in, my lips parting slightly, inviting a kiss that could unravel everything. The air was charged, the silence between us filled with the weight of our choices. I could feel the pull of the unknown, the allure of breaking one kiss led to another, and soon we were lost in a whirlwind of emotions and physicality. The line was crossed, and I was both participant and spectator in my own betrayal. The kitchen, once a place of comfort, now bore witness to my infidelity. As we pulled apart, the reality of what had just happened crashed over me like a cold wave. Guilt, shame, and a rush of adrenaline coursed through me. Mark looked at me, his expression a mix of desire and regret. The thrill of the moment faded into the harsh light of reality, leaving behind a palpable tension. The steam from the tea had long since vanished, but the heat between us lingered, a silent testament to our indiscretion. Mark's eyes, once filled with an intoxicating allure, now reflected the same confusion and regret that churned within me. I shouldn't have done that," I stammered, my voice barely above a whisper, the weight of my actions pressing down on me. Mark's hand lingered on my arm, his touch now feeling like a brand, marking me with the memory of our lapse. "Melissa, I'm sorry," he said, his voice thick with emotion. "I got carried away. I didn't mean for this to happen." I stepped back, the space between us suddenly feeling like a chasm. The kitchen, with its familiar walls and the lingering scent of chili, seemed to close in, a silent judge to our actions. My mind raced, replaying the kiss, the touch, the forbidden dance we had just engaged in. "We need to stop," I managed to say, my voice steadier now, the gravity of our situation sinking in. "This can't happen again. It was a mistake." Mark nodded, his face a mask of contrition. "You're right. It was wrong of me. I let the moment get the best of us." The silence that followed was thick, filled with the echoes of our heavy breathing and the distant sound of Tom's snoring. I turned away, my hands trembling as I reached for the tea mug, now cold. The warmth it once held was gone, much like the fleeting passion that had momentarily clouded my judgment. I stepped back, my hands trembling as I set the mug down. Mark apologized, his voice low, but the words felt hollow. I walked back to the living room, my steps heavy with the weight of my actions. Tom was still asleep, oblivious to the storm that had just passed. I sat beside him, watching him sleep, my heart aching with the complexity of my feelings. The morning would bring light, but also questions, and perhaps confessions. As I lay there, I wondered about the choices we make, the lines we cross, and the boundaries we set. The warmth of the room, the gentle rise and fall of Tom's chest, it all felt like a stark contrast to the turmoil inside me. How could one moment of weakness, one lapse in judgment alter the fabric of our lives so profoundly? The night had been a blur, a mix of laughter, nostalgia, and then that unexpected turn in the kitchen. Mark's touch, his words, they had been like a siren song, pulling me into a dance I knew was forbidden. And yet, I danced. I turned my gaze to the window, the first hints of dawn painting the sky in hues of pink and orange. The world outside was waking up, but inside, I felt like I was at a crossroads. The path of honesty stretched before me, daunting and uncertain. What would I say to Tom when he woke? How could I explain the inexplicable? The silence of the early morning was broken only by the soft sounds of Tom's breathing. I envied his peace, his unawareness of the storm that had brewed in his absence. My mind replayed the scene in the kitchen, the heat of the moment, the rush of forbidden excitement now replaced by a cold, creeping dread. I knew I had to tell him. The truth was a heavy burden, one that would either strengthen our bond or shatter it completely. But keeping this secret, allowing it to fester, would be a betrayal of the trust we've built over decades. As I lay there, the weight of my decision pressed down on me. I thought about our life together, the laughter, the tears, the quiet moments of just being. Don't forget to subscribe, like, and comment if you enjoyed this story. This will help us create more engaging stories for you.